Good afternoon. For those of you just joining us, I'm Mark DeCourcy, the Senior Vice President at the U.S. Chamber Foundation, and I'm honored to be joined by Madge Thomas. She's the Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility and President of the American Express Foundation. In this role, she helps shape and execute American Express's CSR vision, as well as their ESG strategy. As President of the Foundation, she oversees all the company's philanthropic giving, the initiatives that support the company's colleagues, customers, and global communities. At the Chamber Foundation, we know that the strength and resilience of a community is inextricably tied to the strength of the businesses within it. AmEx has a strong commitment to supporting the small business community. You might have heard of Small Business Saturday, which happens every year the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Well, American Express created it. In the spirit of this commitment, they partnered with us here at the U.S. Chamber Foundation on a grant program we're really proud of. It's the Coalition to Back Black Businesses. That coalition, we provide both short-term financial relief and long-term resources to help build the resilience of Black-owned small businesses across America. In fact, through the program, we've now distributed more than 1,000 much-needed grants to businesses. It's through programs like this that American Express is supporting local small businesses and thereby helping the entire community thrive. So let's get started with Madge. Madge, AmEx has a long history of supporting small businesses, Small Business Saturday, and some other programs. And the success is really critical to building neighborhoods. You've turned your focus to supporting historically underfunded small business owners, such as people of color, women, and immigrants. Tell us about how that pivot occurred, and what does it mean for those businesses and for AmEx?
Thanks, Mark. And firstly, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for your partnership on the Coalition to Back Black Businesses. Yes, we are extremely proud of our support for small businesses at American Express. Backing small is part of who we are as a company. And now it's actually the tagline and umbrella for all of our small business efforts. Because as you said, small businesses end up being the lifeblood of the economy in America and globally. They're critical to job creation. They're critical to creating these vibrant, thriving neighborhoods that we all live in. And that's part of why we founded Small Business Saturday years ago. It was about 10 years ago. We created it as a way to really help drive consumers to small businesses coming out of the financial crisis. And we kept that going for more than a decade to coincide with Thanksgiving weekend. So Saturday, November 27th is the 12th annual Small Business Saturday. And we've actually now built in our commitment to small businesses into our environmental, social, and governance strategy because of how important it is to our business values. Our second ESG pillar is building financial confidence. And as part of that, we announced a new goal this year to drive $100 million in consumer spending at small businesses through 2025, including through our Shop Small and Small Business Saturday campaigns. And combined this with our other ESG pillar, which is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, we feel that there's a really great opportunity for small business to do community good and create equality and equity in our neighborhoods. This is actually a long-standing commitment for us at American Express and one of our what we call our blue box values. We're really ensuring now going forward that small business efforts are equitable. So when the pandemic hit, we doubled down. We lifted up small businesses that were disproportionately impacted and those that had historically less access to capital or that are more vulnerable to economic pressure. And since last year, we've really committed almost $15 million over the next few years to support underrepresented or COVID-impacted businesses during the pandemic and the recovery phase. And we continue to build on the success of the Coalition to Back Black Businesses in partnership with the Chamber, which I know you'll be talking about shortly, through things like enhancement grants and a second cycle, which is just announced this year. And just this week, on Monday, in fact, we announced a new program, Inclusive Backing, which we rolled out in partnership with Main Street America to award $255,000 grants to support and lift up and celebrate small businesses that are owned by underrepresented and underserved populations from the communities that are more vulnerable to economic pressures, like veterans, AAPI communities, Hispanic communities, people with disabilities, women, LGBTQIA, refugees and immigrants, among others. So this program is going to be part of our Backing Small suite of small business initiatives with the Coalition to Back Black Businesses, our support for backing historic small restaurants, and so forth. And Inclusive Backing will actually be a year-round program with 4 cycles to provide hundreds of underrepresented small businesses with the financial support as well as other resources that they need to address their critical needs and challenges. And the first cycle will support businesses owned by the AAPI or people with disability-owned communities. And we encourage anyone to look for the applications on our website or Main Street Americas, which will launch on the 19th, so tomorrow. You may have seen also that last spring we worked with the National Trust, and I mentioned our Backing Historic Small Restaurants program, again, because we believe that small businesses can really help create communities, and small restaurants are part of the local community. And lastly, we have done a new program called Buy Black, which is the first and only national certification program and initiative that verifies Black businesses and that are Black owned and that are developed by the US Black Chambers exclusively. So as one of the largest financial services companies in the world with an extensive footprint in small business and a big small business customer base, we think we really have an opportunity as well as a responsibility to play a part in small business growth and confidence in our communities.
Well, Madge, all of those things, it's so terrific that Amex is taking a leadership role and executing these programs. So tell me, one of the things that we often hear is small business lacks capital, right? And particularly minority small businesses. This injection of funds and resources into these communities, what is it going to do to these neighborhoods? And what is this economic activity? I mean, what kind of ripple effect will it create?
Well, ripple effect is the perfect way to put it, Mark, because it's really a case of helping them survive, thrive, and pay it forward in their communities. I mean, this past year, as we've all seen and we all know, was unlike any other, but small business owners everywhere have persevered, have pivoted, and have been there to support our communities when we needed them the most. And the economic effects of the pandemic really showed the importance of getting small businesses, those small businesses in our communities, the funding that when they needed it the most. In our recent Shop Small survey that we did, 72% of small business owners actually said that the grant funding that we provide through programs like the ones I mentioned would help them keep their businesses open another year. And the funding that we give through most of the programs is also flexible and unearmarked. So we let the small business owners decide how to spend the money. And last year, the initial funds that we gave supported a huge and diverse range of business needs, including paying employees, repaying debts, covering rent and utility, developing e-commerce, which became a huge trend in the pandemic, funding PPE, expanding business models, building outdoor dining structures when indoor dining was prevented. So it shows that the funding and capital that we give is critical, it's necessary, and it helps companies survive and evolve as they need to during hard times. And sometimes what I would say is that relief, even as little as it may be, may make all the difference between your local bodega or your favorite neighborhood bookstore shutting its doors. And all of that helps generate economic activity for your community. It also helps businesses invest in their employees and communities while growing their business. And we've heard this from so many business owners. One example was a lady in Rancho Cucamonga in California who told us she'd been operating financial services for over 25 years, and she shared that the funding she got through the Coalition to Back Black Businesses helped her open a second location, which then created more jobs and started a mentorship program in her community so that she could pay it forward and give back. And there are so many stories like this, but what we know that they mean is that the power of even small grant making to small business owners gives them the capital and resources to pay it back and sustain their own communities. And doing that helps whole neighborhoods thrive.
Yeah, but Madge, we couldn't agree more with you. We've only got a couple minutes left. So, we met each other during your last job. So could you tell the audience just a little bit more about your career journey now that you've got nonprofit and corporate perspectives?
Yes, that's right. And Mark and I met when I was on the other side, so to speak, when I was working in the international advocacy organization Global Citizen, which is really a citizen activism platform for social and environmental causes. And after that, I worked for UNICEF before coming to American Express. But having worked most of my career in nonprofit and advocacy, and from my experience at Global Citizen, where a lot of their membership base are Gen Zs and younger consumers, I was really able to understand and I know now what matters to young people, how they're using their voices and platforms more to create an equal and more sustainable world. And I know businesses play a huge part in that world, and I'm abundantly aware of what consumers, especially Gen Zs, want to see from the businesses that they buy from or work for, and that's values. I mean, 70% of consumers have said that they want to know what the brands they support are doing to address social and environmental issues, and 77% say that companies have to respond to racial injustice if they expect to keep public trust. And companies are responding. They're developing robust environmental social governance strategies. That's one of the ways. But also, from being in the nonprofit world, you know how important finance is. And the business community has a big role to play in that as governments step away even more from development finance. So taking a more thoughtful approach to philanthropy, I think, is critical. And I've brought some of that thinking from that nonprofit world into my leadership within the American Express Foundation. And we're actually restructuring our support to provide more systemic change funding to address barriers to social enablement, multi-year unearmarked funding, co-creation with nonprofit partners, identifying areas of unmet needs, and not just doing, I think, what is sexy or what makes good PR, but what is right and what can actually help grow and sustain communities. And I think the other thing, Mark, that I really know from my time at Global Citizen is our role as business in advocacy and thought leadership. How we use our voice is equally as important as what we do and where we put our finance. So I really feel as a final thought that our 3 ESG pillars that we recently announced embody the areas where we feel that we as a company can really lead and push the needle and contribute to solutions. And that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, financial confidence, and climate solutions. And I think it's incumbent on all companies to identify that sweet spot for them. And it's a journey, but I encourage you to all start from where you can, whether that's making grants, providing resources, training, or using your voice, and not being afraid to really think outside of the box, to leverage the capability of your company to help folks like small businesses. And that's how you can really catalyze change and progress in our societies.
Well, thank you, Madge. We appreciate the partnership with American Express and look forward to working with you. We appreciate your time today and sharing your unique perspective. Up next, we'll take a deeper dive into the importance of companies supporting the small business community and what small businesses need right now to be successful.